welcome to episode 24 of the Legged Podcast with me, Andy Grant.
Myself, Tom Wickstead.
And we have with us this week, Bren Orton.
What's up, dudes? Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Mate. So how Bren came along was, so I've got a friend called Ben, you know.
Same here.
And he goes, I was in the Marines with Ben, and Ben messaged me and says, mate, you need to check out this guy. He's fucking cool as fuck. Like, you need to get him on the podcast. So then I started to follow you and reached out to you, mate, and here you are. So how do you know Ben? Did he reach out to you? Or?
Mate, same old same, really. You know, kayaking, it's such a small community. You know, anytime you go out on the water, you're going to meet a bunch of people. It's really cool. And, you know, like, everyone's just really sound, you know? So, like, that's just sort of the thing that happens with kayaking, you know? You go and meet people, you kayak with them, you know, you become friends with them, and they help you out where they can. So, yeah. Thanks to Ben for reaching out about this.
So who's Ben? So he used to be in the Marines?
I was in the Marines with him for a bit, yeah.
Right. Is he? And he's not in there?
He's still in, I think, yeah.
Oh, is he?
I think so, yeah. It was just through social media, through Instagram. And he just said, mate, and then I looked at your profile, I thought, fuck me. Like, I like my adventures and my kind of adrenaline sports and stuff, but then I looked at you and I thought, like, no doubt some of the stories you're going to tell will, like, shock me and think... Because I normally get inspired by seeing people do amazing things. But that didn't inspire me to want to jump in a kayak and some of the stuff you've done.
Fucking off a 50-foot waterfall.
So, before we start from the beginning, but so what's the record you've got?
So like the highest waterfall descent for like a British person, which is 128 foot. But that was held by a dude called Sean Baker for years and years and years. It didn't really get pushed for a while, and a couple of people had been up near that 80 foot, 90 foot mark, but no one had pushed over 100, just because like 100-foot waterfall is a bit of a rarity to find in kayaking, you know? Like, there's lots of 20-footers, there's randomly a lot of 40, 50-footers and 60-footers, but then as soon as you start getting taller, like finding a safe one that you can descend and be all right at the bottom, it gets much, much harder, you know? And
so what are you looking for? Like, when you see that waterfall, that how tall is it?
128.
128 foot.
What's that in meters?
I want to say like 26, but my conversion's rubbish.
Was it 127 foot, 38 metres? Sorry, was it 127 foot?
Yeah.
38 metres.
Fucking hell.
The thing is, though, it's one of those, isn't it, where when you're up there, like when you look at it, like it doesn't look that high, but then when you fucking go right to the top, it's fucking high.
The different perspectives of waterfalls are crazy, right? Because we always joke about, you know, when you're not in your kayaking kit, you're not ready to go. You're like, oh yeah, it's not that big. We'll ride straight over that. And then when you gear up and you're about to do it, you're like, oh my god, this thing is huge.
So like, how do you know that there's no like boulders at the bottom, that when like, who tests that, who even like...
Mate, so a lot of the stuff, once you get in that mark, there's only like a few people in the world doing it, so there's no one like checking out and betting these waterfalls, but you can tell just by how the water reacts, you know. So on the bottom you can see it'll bubble up weird, because basically the waterfall is pushing water down to the bottom of the river, and then the water's bouncing back up, and that's where you get white water, you know. So you'll see it all like, you know, it looks like when you're running your tap or whatever, you know, just like bubbles.
Yeah,
and you can tell from the different shape and the size of bubbles and how violent they are a little bit, or at least enough for us to be able to tell whether something is shallow or deep. But ironically, you actually want sort of a shallow landing zone, because then it's really aerated, because it's just exploding back up from the bottom really violently, but then it's mixing in with the air, so it's quite soft. Whereas if you get a really deep one and the water's power can like sort of filter out, and you landed in flat water, then that's where you get the really violent impacts at the bottom. So like, if you imagine if you're on holiday and you belly flop in the swimming pool, because you're impacting on all that surface tension, and with such a big surface area, that's when you take the big hits, because your speed slows down really quickly. Whereas if you dive in, your speed slows down gradually and you pierce through the water, it's not an issue, you know? You could do that all day.
That's why, I presume that's why when people are like jumping in pools, they put bubbles, don't they, to try and...
Totally, when you're learning. And I think those guys as well, I mean, same for us, but to a bit of a lesser extent, because it's harder to do repeated laps of stuff. But, you know, when they're training and they're doing like 20 laps a day, there's only so many impacts you can take before, you know, you go ruin yourself.
Mate, can we find that clip then of that 127 foot? Will it be on YouTube?
Yeah, mate, I think it'll be in one of my old highlight reels. So I think it might even be that one you're on right there.
Just look at that. Ben Orton broken face, Ben Orton accident.
Yeah, mate.
Oh my God.
That was... So if I type in Bren Orton,
so it's Big Banana Falls.
That is. Is
that the name of the?
Yeah, dude, in Mexico. It's funny because one of my mates is German, ran it with me, and he was like, "Dude, I'm gonna get this tattooed on me." I was like, "Mate, I don't think you want the words Big Banana anywhere on your body."
Should I click that one? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's someone else's video of it, but yeah, the some of the commentary on these videos is hilarious.
A British man survived after falling 128 feet from a waterfall.
Did you fall?
I prefer the word fly, but yeah.
Bren Orton is an extreme kayaker. He set out to break records by descending down Big Banana Falls.
Mate, look at that.
Look at that. Yeah, just keep that. That should be the little thing the photo we put. So you went out there specifically for this Big Banana Falls?
Yeah, mate. It's a bit of a wild story. So like, me and my mate had gone to Pakistan, and we were talking about like the last trip of the year that we could squeeze in, and we hadn't done that much waterfall kayaking that year. You know, we'd had some good stuff in the spring, but then it sort of filtered off with like racing and big water and not that many waterfalls. And we were like, mate, we're gonna go to Mexico. We're gonna go drop this thing. So. I mean, we were skint at that point because Pakistan was so expensive for us with all the permits and you have to have a tour guide there legally and a bunch of other stuff. It's just an expensive trip. So we flew to Mexico. The flight was £825. I had 900 quid in my bank account, and I got charged 50 quid to put the kayak on the plane. So I literally had nothing, like barely enough to make it to the place to go kayaking in. Like the taxi ride. And we went, and it wasn't high enough, like there wasn't enough water going down it to make it like a viable, safe descent. And then a few days in, it rains and the river comes up, so it is high enough to do. And then it was like game on. But this waterfall in particular, a lot of them are freakishly easy to get to. There's normally bridges or there's tourist paths or all sorts of things that are easy to get to. This one comes out of a canyon in the Mexican jungle, so you've got to abseil down to it. I'd never been abseiling before.
With the kayak? With
the kayak, yeah.
Oh my God.
And I
think that's God's way of saying you probably shouldn't come up here to do this,
Yeah, it was
so you abseil down and then you rock up at it, and like, do you stack like, so on that clip there? So there's obviously the entrance there. So before you even go up to the like, can you like walk along there to like? Or you just go, fuck it, let's have it.
So the only way down there and back up is, well, the only way down there is by rope. The only way out of there is by kayak, really. And we were staying at this hostel, and we met this American kid called Walker, and he was properly sound, but he was like, oh yeah, I climb. I'll show you guys how it's dead easy. And Walker smoked a lot of weed. so like, which normally it doesn't bother me at all, each to their own, whatever you want to do, it's none of my business, I don't care. But, when someone's clipping you into a rope at the top of a 128-foot waterfall, it's like, yeah, man, just lean back. And I was like, Walker, am I all good here? Like, am I clipped in? He's like, yeah, man, just lean back, trust the rope. And I'm like, one last check, Walker. And he's like, yeah, man. Oh, wait a minute. And he reclips this carabiner. And I was like, oh my God. Can't believe we're going for this. So yeah, we abseiled down and grabbed a look at it. And then basically, if you have the equipment, reascending up the rope is pretty easy to do. It takes a while, a little bit of effort, but you can do it. We didn't have that. And Walker thought that he jerry-rigged some climbing ropes and we'd be able to do it. And I went down first, and I went like past this like no return point on the rope to get a better look at it, and then trying to climb back up, it wasn't working with this ascending stuff, so I ended up just like free climbing up the rope to the top. But it was wild, mate. It was rowdy.
When you get up there, what happens if you get up, you're in your kayak, you look over and you go, actually, you know what, I'm not doing that. Is that you've got to go now? Or
I mean, in that situation, yeah, I think it'd take at least a day to get someone out of there, maybe 2 days to get the kayak out there as well. Just, you need a big crew because, the friction on the ropes from the overhang on the cliff alone, you'd have to do some really clever rope work to get someone out of that spot. But, like big waterfalls like that are so consequential, like you fuck it up, at the very least, it's going to be a few weeks off kayaking, if not, paralyzed or worse. So, by the time you hit that go point, for myself, there's never a time where once I've said I'm going to do something, I change my mind at the last second, like consider everything And if it feels good, you feel like you're going to do it, then, you know, you say yes, and then you just don't back out from there.
Jesus.
My only experience of that is how poor I am. Is it's a little bit like what you said then. I always remember playing Sunday League when you're a kid and you going in for a tackle, and they'd say, you know, make sure you go in. You go in half-hearted, you end up getting hurt, don't you? You've got to go in.
Exactly, mate. You know, like it's like a lot of things in life. You sort of just want to make your mind up and stick to it. You know, be open to new paths. But you know, like when the time comes, you want to stick by your decision.
Mate, that was.
What are you feeling then? You know, you're up there and.
Can I just play the?
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I just want to see what. Fuck, mate! You must hit the water at whatever speed like gravity pulls you down.
Someone worked it out. It was like just shy of 70 miles an hour.
70.
Yeah, which is, you know, it's pretty fast, but everyone's gone that fast on the motorway. The thing that is cool is the acceleration, because I think it takes like less than 2 seconds, which, you know, you'd have to drop some serious dollar on a car to go that quick, you know.
Yeah.
All it cost me was
0 to 70 in 2 seconds, mate. Fucking hell.
Mate, all it cost me was a flight to Mexico.
Do you need travel insurance? Do you get travel insurance?
Oh, mate, that was that's a bit of a sore subject, because I had an accident last year, and, you know, it was almost 100 grand in medical bills, and the insurance company was trying not to pay for it. So it was a really hectic time of my life trying to convince them that there's no way they can squirm out of it, and they do have to pay. But
fuck.
So you have to. So, geez, yeah.
So
they must get it through, and they're fucking Bren's back again.
Honestly,
we are not insuring this guy.
I honestly don't really claim that much, but I think that, you know, like when they want to take your money and they think we're never gonna have to deal with any expenses, and they're like, yeah, absolutely, we insure that, you know, and then something goes wrong, and I'm like, yeah, I have a brain injury from a 110-foot waterfall. Then they're like, who in the fuck insured this guy to do this? I
was like that when I pay me insurance when I was in Afghanistan, then get blown up and was like, yep, got blown up now, I want my fucking money.
Is that what do you have insurance? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not travel insurance?
No, proper military insurance when you go to war.
Yeah. Right, I didn't know that.
You get blown up and then obviously you lose a leg, you get paid a leg. So I was like, fucking give me my fucking money. I've lost my fucking leg, I want my fucking money.
That's so savage.
That's mad, that. And it's just done by a normal insurance company, just military
it's
insurance.
It's called PAX. You got loads of them. I had one called PAX.
Right.
I remember at my insurance, they were paying me 1,500 quid a week to be in hospital as part of the insurance. I was like...
Like paying you, or like paying your medical bills?
No, well, it was in the UK, yeah, so... It was
no way.
Yeah, so when the surgeon, doctors and the consultants were like, right, you know, you're fully recovered, it's time to go home. I was like, no, you know what? I'll just stay another week, it's fine.
1,500.
Yeah, mate. Winning.
So
Orton says these types of stunts cause his mom to worry to the max. Kayaking is the only thing he does extra.
it's a bit of a cheesy clip, isn't it, with the thing, but still, like...
Yeah, mate. I mean, American internet news company, it's never going to be that good, is it?
So there's another video here, Tyler Brandt.
Tyler Bratt, yeah.
Sorry, Bratt.
Mate, he's the boss right there. That was it. That was still the world record in kayaking, 189-foot Palouse Falls, and he did that like 10 years ago now.
And it's still the world record?
Still the world record. Again, man, like I was saying, like as soon as you go above that 100-foot mark, finding like a good, you know, safe, like I say safe, descendable waterfall gets really tricky.
So how are you...
I've got so many questions already, man.
So... Obviously, the landing's important if you're hitting the water at 70 miles an hour. So, like, how can you even control, like, what is the aim? What's the perfect ideal landing for you? It's obviously not flat.
Mate,
it's like...
yeah, just like you're saying. So, like, dead vertical. If you imagine when you're diving into a swimming pool, if you go past vertical, then you're going to slap your back on the entry and that's going to hurt. Same in a kayak, but a little bit more violent. And if you under-rotate, then you're not going to pierce through the water enough, and that's where you risk, like, breaking your back and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, ideal landing angle, we always joke about it, but we always say like 88 degrees, you know, if 90 degrees is vertical, like just shy of just vertical, because that means that you'll pop out on the front of a waterfall as opposed to the back where normally there's a bunch of caves and scary stuff.
But surely though, if you're kind of going like this, although the kayak itself is flat, you're obviously sticking out though. So
Mate, exactly, yeah. So you're trying to tuck yourself into the kayak as hard as you can, so... A little bit like if you, I don't know, like when you're on the planes and they used to have you practice your brace positions.
Oh yeah.
Very, very similar to that, So you're just trying to get as far forwards as you can.
So you're literally kind of leaning forward.
Exactly, mate. Just trying to crunch up as hard as you can against the kayak, because then it's a bit like like the water will hit the kayak, and then sometimes it'll sort of go past your body. But if you don't tuck up all the way, then you're going to get ripped back really hard. But I honestly, it's a bit of a catch-22 for me, and my technique's a bit different to other people, because like I grew up boxing a little bit as a kid, and then the thing you're always taught in boxing is like it's a punch that you don't see that knocks you out. So I'm normally trying to keep my head up to the last second and like watch myself impact, whereas other people just commit to burying their heads and holding on, So it's a little bit different, and I definitely take a couple more like rip back impacts, but aside from one incident, I'd never got knocked out before,
Fucking hell. And you have been knocked out, yeah, once.
Mate, yeah, it was a really, really freak accident. So like normally when you do a big waterfall, you go really deep, obviously, and you pop out quite far downstream away from a waterfall. On this particular descent, I popped up next to it, and then it hit me. So like one of my mates did the calculations, but it was like 100 cubics of water, which is a lot, and then that fall in 110 foot, and so he calculated basically I got hit by like 2.5 tons of force, and that just destroyed me really. like fractured skull, brain injuries, didn't really know who I was for 2 weeks, and then took a long time for my vision to come back. That was really strange.
When is it?
My God!
The beauty of what you do is that there's always a YouTube clip.
Mate,
Where did that happen?
That was in Canada. So that was a drop I was on about, where it took a long time for the medical bills and everything to come through. And I made a video just after it, which was like a vlog, but I had to take that down because of the insurance company. But I think that I can put it back up now. So I'll put it back up after we get done here. You guys can watch. But I got criticized a lot by my friends for making that video, but it was so weird to live through that brain injury, and like the way I try and explain it to people is like it felt like there was like a hologram in front of me, of the person that I was, and then there was the person that I was at that point with the brain injury, and it was just like trying to take all these little steps to get back to the person that I was. It was really strange. So I was just trying to do the things that I always used to do, and one of the things was making videos. So I made that video and a couple more videos after it, and got heavily criticized, and that was a bit of an issue with the insurance company, because then they had all the details and whatnot. But
what were your friends criticizing it for?
Just for like putting it out there so early, and like I think as well, because I was like, it really hurt to look at a screen. So aside from making the video, I was not online that much, and I think the reason my friends were pissed off with me is that I didn't tell them how brutal it was. Like when I called them, when my friends that rescued me on that day had called them, they were like, Brent's had an injury, brain bleeding, blah, 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 but he's okay, But then the reality was that I was unconscious at the bottom of a huge waterfall with like my face destroyed, and like blood everywhere, and people weren't prepared for that, So the reason my friends were pissed off with me is that I just hadn't warned them, which I should have done in hindsight. They're totally correct. But, my thing is like everyone knew I'd been hurt at that point, but then the reality of like seeing me in that state upset a lot of people. Not in like they're angry at me way, but just Jesus. Like we need more details in the future.
It's funny, off subject a sec, but Doc Lambert, my surgeon who amputated my leg, he's a good friend of mine. He used to do a thing where when someone would get blown up in Afghanistan, he'd allow them to ring the parents and tell the parents themselves, rather than
him doing it all.
Well, someone in the UK would have to go and knock at the door and say, your son's been injured. Man. So rather than that happen, the doc would say, look, do you want to tell your mum or dad yourself? And my mate Gibbo rang up, he's just been blown up and lost his leg, and he's lying there with one leg, and rang his mum and was like, all right, mum, just to let you know, I've just been injured, I'm okay, I'm fine, but they're going to fly me home, so you'll have to go to Birmingham in a couple of days when I'll be there to see me. And his mum was like, oh, you're okay? And he's like, yeah, I don't know, listen, look, mum, I'm fine, I'm on my way home. And he fucking just had his leg blown off, but he didn't need to tell his mum at that point. He just wanted to reassure her and stuff. So I can imagine, I kind of know a little bit what you mean, where it's people are just probably just more worried for your safety, aren't they? Thinking
Exactly, mate, no doubt.
How quickly did you have to get airlifted out, or
so they tried to airlift me out of the base of the waterfall, but we were too far north, so they couldn't get a heli in there. And so, but I mean, it was so brutal for my crew that were there on that day, you know, because it was such a freak accident. Like they watched me descend the waterfall, you know, and they're like, that was a sick line, all good. So they start cheering, and then they don't see me, you know, and then the kayak pops up upside down and nothing's happening, and they're like, did he get ripped out of his kayak? Like, is he under the water? Shit. And then one of my mates goes to flip over the kayak, and I'm in it completely unconscious. So we're like, oh fuck, he got knocked out, but you know, at least, you know, the safety team has him. And then it becomes apparent that I'm not okay, and you know, and then they call for a helicopter. No helicopter can get there, so then like huge rescue mission launched, and then they like end up like floating me down the rest of the river, and then I think I came to at some point down there. I was unconscious for a while, and then still sort of out of it, and I came to, and then I think they like carried me out, or I know they carried me out, and then we went to one hospital which is like a 2.5 hour drive away, and they like sat me up and they're like, yep, your friend's really concussed, you know, brain injury, blah, blah, but he'll be okay. And so they go out and get dinner, because we haven't eaten since 6 a.m. that morning when we got up to go do the waterfall. And by this point, it's like 10 o'clock at night or whatever. So we get dinner, and we come back after dinner for like one last check on me before they go to bed. And they met at the hospital, and we're like, yeah, we have to airlift him to a bigger hospital because his brain's bleeding. They were like, oh shit.
They done such an amazing job, mate.
And they absolutely crushed it. Like, you know, I literally owe my life to those guys. They're awesome, you know, but you know, that's the reason they're my best mates, you know, before and after that incident. You know, and that's sort of the amazing thing about kayaking, which like, I'm sure it's the same for you when you were serving, you know, it's like you're out there doing dangerous things with your friends, and like, you just form such strong friendships through that, through being scared with each other, you know, all the highs and lows. Like, you know, it's a different sort of friendship, you know, totally, like friends for lives.
100%, yeah. I still speak to all the guys now, and a lot of them are still my best friends, and don't see them all the time, but, you know, when you catch up with them, we had our 10-year anniversary not long ago, and it was just like yesterday you were back in Afghanistan with them. It was crazy. Yeah, that bond is something special.
So and then you get airlifted to this bigger hospital, and can you remember this or not? No.
So I remember nothing except waking up in the big hospital, and
where was that?
Mate, it was in Stanton, so Yellowknife, like north, somewhere in Alberta, Canada. I'm rubbish at geography in the first place, let alone without the brain injury. But yeah, Yellowknife, Canada is where I was in the big hospital. And my first memory was, waking up, and I was like, this is a weird light, you know, like you always know the hospital lights, you know, that like weird like color. And I was like, uh-oh. And then I saw the white bed sheet, so I was, you know, it's not often I sleep in a bed, you know, I'm normally just like in my sleeping bag or a mate's couch, you know. I was like, uh-oh. And I like looked to my left, and it's my mate asleep in the hospital chair. I was like, dude, what happened? And he was like, oh, kayaking incident, you hit your head, you'll be okay though. And I was like, you know, like, did I mess up the line? And you're like, no dude, perfect line. And I was like, but what? You know, like I just couldn't wrap my head around it. It took weeks to understand it, because I was just so messed up, you know, like I couldn't just, you know, the brain processes were all up in the air then anyway. But, you know, even now I'm like, it's just, you know, just reset the rules to the game, because before that I felt like I could kayak off anything as long as you controlled yourself and landed at a good angle. You could do anything, and like as long as you landed at 88 degrees or similar, then you would be fine. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it for so long,
mate. And then how you managed to get back on, like, and then do another like descent,
is it a bit like when they say, you know, the first thing you should do when you fall off a horse, you need to get back on it? Was it like that?
Mate, a lot like that. But again, I had, you know, like this day and age, everyone's worried about CTE and like multiple concussions and all of that stuff. And I was going to go to Chile with my mates that same winter, and they were like, no, there is no way you're coming and getting and taking like a second or a third impact. Like, you got to take some time out. Focus on other things, and, you know, go kayaking, just like stay away from big waterfalls for a while, which I had a bit of a hard time with at first, but it was absolutely the right advice, you know, like, and, you know, ultimately my goal is to kayak forever. So, you know, taking one trip off was totally worth it.
And so do you like, so how do you fund these trips? Because I'm fascinated by people, and we've had plenty of people on this podcast who like seem to just be able to do what the fuck they want. And like,
I think they're the most inspirational kind of podcast we've done, mate. That me and Tom talk about it a lot, where it's this kind of thing where, you know, people just kind of think that, you know, you've got to work and you've got to pay bills and you've got to live this normal life. So it's so refreshing to kind of meet people who are like, I love kayaking, so I'm going to travel the world and fucking kayak. Like, it's you know what I mean? Rather than like society tells me I've got to go, it's like, fuck this, I'm going to go on kayak. So, but
like, even like people must think of you, it's like, it's not like a childish thought, but like it is in a way, because like people must think, Bren, all he just wants to do is kayak. Like, you know, he's, you know, that's his like 14-year-old mentality of like, Mum, what I want to do when I'm older is I just want to kayak. That's all I fucking want to do. I want to kayak every single day. And then, you know, like, it's a child, like, but to be able to actually do it and just...
It's genius.
Yeah.
Genius.
It's genius.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah.
To say, cheers, I love doing this and I want to do this, and fair play to you, man.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.
I love all shit like this, man. I love people who don't conform to society and just live the life that they want to live.
Yeah, mate. I mean, honestly, I have a way easier time doing this, like pursuing what I'm really passionate about, than I ever would have trying to, like, you know, step through all the right hoops and like behave how I'm meant to be and all of that stuff. It probably would have been an easier, more comfortable life in the last, like, I mean, I left school when I was like 15 or 16, so the last 10 years it would have definitely been a lot more comfortable if I'd have just, you know, gone to university, gotten a job, got an apprenticeship or whatever. But I don't think I would be as happy as I am now. Like, I wake up every day and I'm excited to go off and do the next thing.
Which is, like, that's all you could ever ask for, do you know what I mean?
Mate,
do you ever worry about, like, obviously, without a personal question, but, like, because I imagine at times, like, cash-wise, it must be quite hard, like... Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to, like...
mate,
you alluded to it earlier when, like, you had 50 quid in your bank account or whatever, like... But... Does that not ever get... Because me personally, if I was... Let's say I set myself on the 13th of July, I said, you know what, every single day I'm going to do a fucking podcast every single day. Podcasting is now my life. And then I looked at my bank balance 8 weeks later and I had like 4 quid to my name. I'd be like, this podcast, I'm not up for this. I can have more the job back.
And then you get concussed doing a podcast and then you break your face.
Mate, you'd have to have really said the wrong things for that to happen. Yeah. Yeah, mate, I see what you're saying, but, you know, and like, I mean, as, you know, as like background information here, like I ran away from school at 15, went to Uganda with some money that I'd earned working on my building site that summer and selling some like toys as a kid. And that was like the start of it, really, of like me being broke and just pursuing kayaking. And then since then I worked like every odd job you can imagine to pay for kayaking. Like whatever job I could do to pay for the next plane ticket and quit and go on that next trip, I would do it, you know? So I worked on the building site a lot. I worked in some factories. I worked in the post office. I was a grave digger. I did some medical trials. Like whatever would pay for that next plane ticket, I would do it, you know?
Did you do the medical trial? Because that was big. I remember a lot of people doing that.
Yeah, so I did 3, and one of them was really...
I fucking love this guy already, man.
One of them was really chill. I was basically just in like a hospital room with like, it was awesome, mate. Honestly, it was like being on holiday. They brought you, so you were like quarantined from the other people in the test, and I think they would feed you 3 times a day. You had like a little workout station. You had an Xbox. It was awesome. I was like, I couldn't believe I got paid $2,000 for it. It was fucking brilliant.
What did you have to do,
mate? So that was for like an asthma medicine, for like treating like flu patients, and basically they told me that I might get a little bit sick from it because basically they were checking that asthmatics could take this medication when they were sick, and it not impact their lungs or whatever. So I think that they were trying to make people sick and then give them the medication and check that they were going to be all right. But if anyone's ever, if you've ever read a book called Bad Pharma by Benjamin Goldacre, then he sort of like delves into the pharmaceutical industry, because I don't really have asthma necessarily, you know, it's like allergy induced or occasionally sport induced, you know, but I take my inhaler like 10 times a year, like max. And so basically it was a bit of a con having me there, because I'm not really like someone that struggles a lot with asthma. It's just a little bit. But then at the end of their study, they could use me as an example, you know, of like, you know, like patient 0XY is asthmatic and was fine on this drug.
You maybe wasn't a true asthmatic in that sense, though.
Totally, mate. But I didn't really understand how they played that game until I read that book, and I was like, oh, that sucks, you know, because I was definitely 100% there for the money, but at the same point, there's a little bit of like, you know, an altruistic thought of, you know what, maybe this medicine will help some people, you know, like, but definitely not quite the case. And drug companies, man, that book was enlightening for me, because, you know, everyone thinks of drug companies as being bad, but you don't necessarily understand the ways in which they're bad, and that book like levels everything out for you.
Sometimes they give you placebos, don't they? Did they say that there's a 50% chance?
I think I was a placebo.
Really?
Like, I honestly, I felt nothing. Either that or the medicine was great, but I felt nothing. So
yeah, because I had a friend who did a flu one.
Camp, dude. I was there for flu camp too. Flu camp is really chill.
No, it reminds me of this story. Have you seen her Friends with Joey off Friends? And he's like, he's skint. He's an actor and he's skint, and he goes to like he just goes and does these trials to just try and get any money. And there's this one, and they need identical twins. And he just finds a guy in the street who like looks a little bit like him, and he's like, he's my identical twin. And they're like, no, he's fucking not.
Oh, mate. Well, there's the next one, mate.
Yeah, flu camp. Yeah, and like a lot of students did it when I was at university. Like 3,000.
$4,000 for what?
There's a place in Manchester that do it.
I didn't get paid that much.
Did you?
Mine was like 750 quid or whatever, but it was a much shorter study. So like to get that full money, you've got to commit to like going to like blood tests and screenings and all of this stuff. Really, it's actually a decent amount of money. Whereas the one I went on, it's like go get blood tests, screening and whatever, and then you're in there the next week, you know, getting trialed for the next month. But it's pretty chill to get into. To get that full money, you gotta jump through some hoops for sure.
There was that one. Do you remember that one a while ago that went Pete Tong? That clinical trial.
Mate, there's so many things in the newspapers that I've read before going in for it, and I was like, oh boy. But yeah, there was one hideous one where like some people's heads swelled up.
Was it. Yeah.
It was like a stage. What? It was like a stage 1 trial. I shit you not, mate. It was something out of like science fiction. It was so brutal.
It was like, I'm sure that was like 2006.
That's a serious love of kayaking to know all that and think, fucking, I'm still gonna do it.
Yeah, it was 2006. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that.
The drug trial that went wrong.
Dude, this shit just, the Elephant Man trial. Yeah, dude, this thing is so rowdy.
God. It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, so for anyone listening and thinking that, you know, a medical trial could be a good way to pay for the next plane ticket, this is the other reality of it.
He'd signed up for the trial for a fee of $2,000 with no clue of the trauma that would follow.
Oh, fuck it. And so, I'm guessing you're signing your life away in a sense, like, you know, you've got...
mate, yeah, 100%.
There's no comebacks at all.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what sort of lawyer you would need to ever get any money from him for any harm
you ain't
cause.
got a chance there, have you?
Nah, you're literally saying, look, I'm prepared to give this a go. And
But, you know, like, they were, especially flu camp were quite upfront about everything, you know, of like, these are the symptoms that you may expect, and it was literally just for flu, you know, and then treating me, I don't know what the drug was, but I had no side effects, you know, maybe it was a placebo, who knows.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I think stuff like that is pretty chill, and then this one, it sounded pretty rowdy from, like, the, just from, like, the docket, you know, of, like, what they were trying to treat and whatnot, but... I mean, still just so savage that could happen to people.
I know.
The placebo thing, I think, is fascinating. When I was in hospital, I was taking what's the drug called? What's the name of it? Tramadol.
Tramadol.
I was taking a lot of tramadol. Oh no, it wasn't. Sorry, tramadol. It was amitriptyline. No, amitriptyline's a nerve drug. I like a bit of a sleeping tablet, so I used to take it just before bed. But trying to come off that was really, really difficult. And I remember I'd be lying in bed, and if I'd not took it, I could not go to sleep. And then the second I placed it on my tongue, I'd fall asleep. And it was just a kind of mind thing that, you know, it was fucking weird how I could not sleep at all until my kind of body knew that I'd took it. And then, and then I'd be out, even though it wouldn't have even, you know, worked that quickly. But just in my head, it was like, I've had it now, I can go to sleep.
I mean, placebo effect, 100% real. I always joke with my mates as well, because, you know, like, I was looking at your supplement stack over there or whatever, you know, but I like, like I have the same things, and like recently I'm getting. It's not holistic, it's the wrong word for it, but like I'm taking stuff like ashwagandha and ZMA and all of that stuff, and like, and my mates are giving me jip for it because it's relatively expensive, it costs like 20 quid a tub or whatever. And I'm like, mate, if I believe that it works, even if it scientifically doesn't work, as long as I believe that it works, it's going to do the things that it will.
Yeah, who cares?
Then like it will sort of work to an extent, like even if I'm paying 20 quid for the placebo effect, then it's worth it to me because I believe that it's going to work.
Yeah.
What are you taking?
Ashwagandha. So it's basically like Asian ginseng or something like that. I think it would be classed as, but it's getting really popular in a bunch of things now for like improving mental focus and like reducing stress and all of that stuff. But I take it, and I feel good on it.
Have you taken CBD or anything like that?
Yeah, mate. So that's huge in the States. One of my friends is actually like America is much different to England with weed, right?
Yeah.
And one of my mates is sponsored by a weed company, so he's always, he's got all the goodies. But I've tried out a few of his CBD products, and I don't honestly notice that much happening, to be honest. Like, it's so hard to tell with that because there's no, like if you look at like a vitamin over here, like if you take Berocca, you'll feel it working because it's full of like dextrose and sugar, you'll feel that like, oh, I took it, I feel better already, but that's just your body reacting to the sugar in it. Whereas a CBD, I think, is a bit more like pure for that, like there's no stimulants or anything in it, and so you don't really feel it per se.
Right, yeah. So
like I haven't noticed anything exactly, but again, just like ashwagandha, I don't really notice it.
Yeah. I 100%. I had the CBD oil, tried it, and I was the same. Didn't really notice too much, but again, I was like, I'm happy doing it because I feel a bit more. It was not doing anything. Well, it might have been, but even the supplements I take, you take the what do they call, like the multivitamins. Even when I'm taking them, the exact same thing. I'm like, I think they're working, so they're working. Like, do you know what I mean?
I do the same. If I feel like I'm about to get a cold or someone else in the things who've got the cold, I'll start taking them, and then I feel like I'm not going to get...
It's crazy how the mind works, isn't it?
Yeah.
No doubt, mate. But yeah, the CBD stuff, at least that's got like, a lot of science backing it up now, like is shown to help with stuff. My uncle is actually trying to like... I'm trying to like produce CBD for the NHS or something, but he's just down the road in Ashton.
Is he?
Yeah.
It's got to be a matter of time, I think, before it gets used on the NHS.
Yeah, it's got to be. But yeah, talking to him with like all the knowledge he has about it, it's really interesting. It's it's like it's a whole new path to like alleviating aches and pains and looking after yourself that I hadn't really considered. Because you grow up in England, you like drugs. You're gonna go crazy. You're gonna like you're just, as soon as you take drugs, then you're off on the wrong path. Yeah.
I do wish I'm not into drugs really at all. Never took any drugs. I smoked a bit of weed, but that's about as far as I've gone. But I do wish that growing up, not growing up, that's a lie, because I don't think it's good doing it too young, but I've definitely had the wrong mindset with drugs. It's only kind of I've grown up and I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast, and you're kind of hearing him experience with different drugs and stuff. And I'm not saying all drugs are right or all drugs are wrong, but I just agree with what you're saying. You're just grown up in this country, aren't you? Mate. It's like fucking drugs are all bad. Like everything to do with drugs is bad. Yeah. And then I'm 31 now, and you think actually smoking weed's helping all these people. There's now studies talking about. Is it MDMA? Is it that's trying to
MDMA
that can help out with
PTSD?
PTSD, and you're like, I've just grown up with thinking every drug is like completely barbaric. Don't ever touch them, and then you.
Yeah, mate. Or even worse, that like the people that do drugs are bad or whatever.
Yeah.
Like some of my best mates, like I'm same as you, mate. I don't do drugs. I've tried weed like a little bit, but not that much, and I didn't necessarily like it because I run a lot, and like I'm trying to keep my lungs healthy, but. Some of my mates are like really heavy drug users. You would never know it. They're some of the nicest people you'd ever meet, And like in England, it's just pushed on you that, it's like some bloke in a hoodie down on the street,
100%, man, yeah.
It's totally not the case, like some of these guys are like business execs.
Yeah, I kind of had to really change my thinking because again, I was a bit too militant about it. Not that I ever would tell anyone what to do, but it was this thing, my mates would call me Frank. Remember that talk to Frank?
Talk to Frank.
Because they used to call me Frank, so I was just so dead against it. But then again, you come to an age and you think, again, not everyone is like, this real bad person who does drugs and stuff.
The US are very forward thinking though, aren't they, on things like
I mean, some states are though, mate. You know, it's like, it's crazy. You know, if you imagine it like mainland Europe, you know, like Germany is very different to France, which is very different to Spain, which is really different to Greece. You know, it's the same for the States. You know, like California, amazingly forward thinking, very switched on. Tennessee, not that progressive, if I'm honest. Alabama, fucking backwards, mate. Like 1950s shit going on there with the abortion laws.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, it's a mad place how sometimes they're just like forward thinking on certain things, and then other things you think to yourself like, how can you? Why would you? But
so, mate, even then, just listening to some of the places, you must have done some serious travelling.
Yeah, mate. Then gotten to go around.
So from 15 as well, you said when you touched on that. It's just, how old are you now? Sorry,
25.
So literally from the last 10 years, you've just travelled.
Yeah, mate. I mean, it's sort of like a blessing and a curse, but you know, like there's not. Warrington's not gifted with like the world's best rivers to go kayaking on. You know, it's pretty central in England to visit the white water parks and learn how to kayak. And then if it rains, you've got North Wales pretty close by, but it's not the best location in the world to go kayaking in. And so yeah, I basically had to travel to go do what I wanted, which is, you know, an amazing opportunity. And yeah, mate, got to visit some pretty cool countries, which I'm happy with. I'm so disappointed with myself for like the early years because I was just so fixated on kayaking. Like I would not take any time to appreciate anything else, you know. We'd be in these beautiful countries, amazing landscapes, all this culture and heritage, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool, which way is the river? You know, like just blew by all of it.
Yeah, I used to do that a few times with a friend of mine who was in the Paras, and so like, you know, me and the Marines, him and the Paras, and we go to climb Snowdon and be in Snowdonia. And you just have that military mindset that was in, and it was just like, right, let's get to the top, go. And you just kind of power up there, and then you'd have a quick stop, and maybe you'd stop once for 5 minutes, bit of scran, bit of water, and then you'd get up to the top. Right, yeah, we've done it now, let's go back down. And you'd think, fuck, people travel hours and hours to come here, and we've just fucking ran up and down in 3.5 hours, and you're like... So now I definitely try and take a bit of a step back, and I'm like, wow, look at the views. But yeah, it's easy to do that, isn't it?
Mate, no doubt.
So, like, where's some of the that you're going? We should really say that in 8 hours you're going to Nepal?
Yeah.
So I presume that's pretty, like, is that like one of the usual places that you go to, or is there like a cluster around like Asia that you tend to like?
Mate, so Nepal is like a new place for me. It's not a new place for kayaking. People have been exploring it for years, and it's like I don't know, a bit of like a hot spot for kayaking, really, especially like exploration and rivers and whatnot. People have been going there for the last like 50 years, if not longer. For myself, we've been pursuing waterfalls for the last couple of years, especially. And so basically, you know, the Pacific Ring of Fire?
No.
So is that where all the earthquakes are?
Mate,
yeah.
Almost basically, yeah. So if you look at it from space, basically there's this ring of like volcanoes. You can see it. It's like basically a C shape of these volcanoes. And
should I get it up? Pacific Ring of Fire.
And anyway, the sort of rock that is produced from volcanoes is the best waterfall rock in the world. You know, so the river has to erode the rock for it to make a waterfall, and the salt rock is generally what makes the best sort of waterfalls. And so we've spent a lot of time in Pacific Northwest in America, lots of time in Chile and Mexico, places like that, because that's where you get all the big waterfalls. The rivers in Nepal, you get what we call big water. So it's not necessarily like huge drop-offs. It's like continued gradual rivers and rapids, which are massive, but you're not falling for like anything more than a few feet at a time. You know, I'd say it's rare to find anything bigger than 20 foot there, because it's all just like rivers made by landslides and boulders tumbling in.
It feels like Nepal's like a little bit like New Zealand, where like, because you got the climbing element of it, it's like very much like a extreme sport sort of like country to some extent.
Yeah, mate. I think like mountaineering and everything like that, Nepal is like the spot to go to, I think.
Yeah.
And you know, just that mountain range is insane. I was on the other side of it 2 years ago now in Pakistan, and it was crazy, mate. Like, you've never seen mountains like it.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Mate, talk. I'm interested to hear what happened in Pakistan then. Like, how, like, can you talk about that? Like, how you got to pay people and shit like that, or?
Yeah, mate, a little bit. I mean, it was honestly, mate, it was dead easy for us. Like, you know, I'm sure same for you guys, you know, years and years ago growing up and whatnot, you just hear all the bad things about Pakistan with bin Laden and whatever, and the country itself since then has struggled with tourism just to change the way it's viewed, because a lot of people have that image still of like, oh, it's dangerous, and it's totally not, you know. It's like everywhere, you know, there's good and bad people, there's safe and not safe spots to go to, but it's by and large pretty safe for tourists to go and hang out there. And we went with like a tourist guide company called Golden Peaks, which is the only way to do it, because you've got to get someone to sponsor your visa to get in the country. It costs a little bit of money, but pretty easy to do. But when you're in the country, it's a lot of like roadblocks and, you know, dealing with permissions and permits and all of that stuff. And if we weren't with those guys, then we would have been buggered, you know, because no one spoke the local language, like, you know, like we had no idea what we were doing, but they looked after us really well. But yeah, there's definitely a few times they were just greasing the right palms to get us through and whatnot. And you know, playing the game really, which depends which way you view it, but I sort of like countries like that, you know, like where if you need to get something done, you can just pay the money and get it done. You know, like...
Yeah.
Mate, the thing is with that as well, like, corruption happens in the UK, it's just hidden, do you know what I mean?
It just happens, well, not all the time, but if it happens high up, you just don't see it as you would do maybe on street level, like you would in Pakistan.
Yeah. Yeah, and at least countries like that, it's affordable to most people, you know. Whereas like corruption in the UK or the USA, that's big boy money right there.
Exactly,
yeah. Have you seen? I don't know if you've ever watched. There was a video on YouTube. I think they're called Nelk. They do like pranks and stuff.
Okay.
And they did this prank where they'd had a load of Coke in the car, right? But it was just Coca-Cola cans, and they'd put all these Coke cans in the back of the car. And they were going across the Mexican-US border. So if they were, obviously they'd ask, and then they'd start panic. Like the whole joke was that they're going to start panicking, saying, "Yeah, we've got a whole load of Coke in the back," and like start sweating, blah blah blah. Anyway, this Mexican two police were a woman and a man pull them over, and obviously there's like a GoPro there, and you know they're recording this prank, and they say, we've got a shitload of, like, they start panicking, going, yeah, I'm so sorry, we've got a load of Coke in the back of the car. And the police look at them and go, right, okay. Anyway, the police offered them $250, and they'll let them go.
Really?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Fucking hell.
$250, and they had like
So they said they could have got through with the Coke,
yeah,
no problem.
$250.
Wow.
Damn.
It's fucking mad, isn't it?
Like, when you're in all these countries, where are you staying? Just hostels?
Mate, wherever really. I mean, every country is different. Like, you know, America is trying to save money. It's a lot of times like crashing at the side of the road, sleeping in cars. We've got a few mates out there now, so we can crash on their couches. But yeah, a lot of like just camping or sleeping in the car. Some places like Mexico, where like living's pretty cheap, and we'll grab a hostel or something like that. Or like Mexico, honestly, the place we go, Tlapacoyan, it's like, there's a few cartels around there, so you definitely want to be somewhere with like big gates at night, you know, and security.
Really, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like everything, mate. You know, you don't bother them, they won't bother you. But
yeah.
I mean, a few of the lads would go out and party in town, and I was like, nah, there's no way I'm being kidnapped here. Like, not necessarily for myself, but my mum would be like launching like some sort of like military operation to come and get me.
Yeah. After that, like, fucking Bren's gone and done it again. Like,
yeah.
Your mum must be a bag of nerves every single time you go away.
What do you do? Have you got a missus?
No, mate.
What do you do when is there many chicks doing this kind of sport out and about? Or?
Mate, we joke about it so much. It's like a fucking sausage fest. Like, anywhere that's good for kayaking is absolutely sausage fest. But depends what you're after, really, isn't it? But yeah, mate. I mean, Guy Martin has a good quote about it. You know, he's like, you know, like some blokes love going to the pub. You know, it's all right. It's not really my scene, but I do it. Some guys love shagging. You know, which, you know, I'll do it, but I don't really care that much about it. You know, and then it's like, and some people love riding the motorbikes, which is me. You know, and it's like I identify so much with that quote. You know, because like I love hanging out with my mates at the pub. You know, I love hanging out with girls, but like kayaking is the focus.
Yeah, that's a fair one, mate.
Kayaking is the world.
And again, mate, without blowing so much smoke up your ass, I just love that relentless kind of pursuit. I know what makes me happy. I'm gonna fucking do it.
Cheers, mate. I appreciate it.
It's so fucking.
Can I just ask, what is your YouTube channel? Send.
Yeah.
So what is that? Is that like a partnership with you? Yeah.
So that's like a collective of like myself and my three best mates, which is Dane Jackson, Caleb Grady, and Adrian Mattern. And I'd been trying to set something up like this for years as a kid, you know. I'd been like, you know, like I'd grown up with local kids in Nottingham and whatnot, and we were getting pretty good, and everyone was excited about going kayaking. I was like, we should form a crew, we should make videos, and then after that we should make films, we should travel the world and go kayaking. And then literally everyone dropped out aside from me, and they all went off to university and got jobs and did this and did that. And then it was just me, and so I went traveling on my own. And my mate and this dude called Adrian went traveling on his own as well. And then one time, randomly, I was trying to go to Norway for my first time. I was like, I just want to go. Is anyone going? Can I tag along? And he popped up and he was like, dude, hop in my mate's van. Let's go kayaking. Because we knew who each other were, you know, from being at events and like seeing each other's videos online. We just had never hung out. And we hung out, and you know, when you just meet someone, you just get along with them straight away. And it was like, it was crazy, mate, because we're both from a city, you know, like both our parents are divorced. We've both been working odd jobs to fund kayaking, and we're both really passionate about kayaking and filmmaking. And we were even born on the same fucking day, like June 10th. So I was like, wow, this is just crazy. And so it was me and him formed Send, and we were traveling around, and we teamed up with two of our other mates, Dane and Caleb, in Chile. And like, everyone just got along, you know, like it wasn't just good times hanging out, but it's good times working with each other and getting the film shots and everything. It just sort of worked. And I was like, dude, we should just all of us partner in on this. And that was like 3 years ago now, and it's been going pretty well so far.
Mate, you've got some serious amount of followers.
Yeah, a couple, 2, 3.
What's your kind of main social media that you is a?
Mate, I mean, it's basically split between Instagram and YouTube, which Instagram we're bigger on just because that's where we started from, basically. And then YouTube we've only been pushing for like the last year and a half, maybe. But
sorry.
No, you're all good, mate. You're all good. But yeah, mate, we got really excited with the whole like vlogging side of things. So like
some of these videos, should you edit all these yourselves?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Which is cool, mate. That's sort of why I love YouTube, because I've learned so much from YouTube, just tutorials and people putting them out.
Yeah, it is quality. What you can learn on YouTube, it's insane, isn't it?
It's endless, you know. Like I always joke about that, you know. Like so many people are trying to go to film school and everything, but nowadays you have a sick camera on your phone and you have YouTube like off your part.
Are you doing it on your phone?
No, mate. I mean, we'll grab a couple of shots at parties when we don't want to take the big cameras out, but I mean, we are shooting on proper cameras now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What about when did you strap a GoPro to the front of your?
Yeah, dude, we'll use the head cams a lot, or like a tail mount on the kayak, which is like, I honestly don't like it because I'm a kayaker, and that's like the easiest way to film something, you know. It's just throw the GoPro on and off you go. So there's so much kayaking footage shot by GoPro that it doesn't really excite me anymore. But then for these videos, I think people appreciate having that like point of view, and you know, like being immersed in the video and whatever. So yeah, GoPros are really useful. And then we use the same camera system throughout the crew, which is the Panasonic G series. So like myself and Adrian use the GH5s, which are more geared towards videos, and my other mates use the G9s, which are more towards photos. But I mean, 2019, they can do everything.
And still, mate, you still kind of living this life of, you know, you're home for a bit, you'll just do any job, you just get some money together, and then you go again?
Mate, it all flipped in like the last 2 or 3 years, I would say, because before then I would just scrape together money, you know, working odd jobs and then just going on a trip and spending it all, and then started getting a little bit smarter with how to approach companies and how to work with companies. And I think the biggest thing is just like my reputation in kayaking got to a point where, like, you know, people would take me seriously, you know, like I was no longer this like up and coming kid, you know, like without sounding like a big headed twat. I was like the man, you know, like in England at least, and Europe, and then, you know, traveling around the States, I made a bit of a name for myself there. So like people knew it was legit, you know. It wasn't just someone, you know, talking the talk, it was someone walking the walk as well. And if they didn't believe that, then they could go to YouTube and watch any video they wanted and be like, yeah, he's pretty all right at kayaking. And
He's not bad.
yeah, exactly. And so that changed, you know. So like I'd had sponsors since I was like 13 or 14, but with kayaking, it's such a small sport and industry comparatively that there's not that much money in it, you know. So even though I had sponsors when I was a kid, that was at the most free product, you know. Like it was never money until I was like, I don't think I earned any money from kayaking until I was about 18, and even then it was like 500 quid a year, you know. It was nothing.
Mate, fair enough though to be able to get someone to pay you to like do kayaking.
Yeah, I mean, mate, Alan Watts.
Even if it's 500 quid, who fucking
Mate,
cares?
don't even say what you're about to say.
Alan Watts,
Oh.
mate,
I got his video up the other week about it. He says, find something you love and do. Fuck, mate, that's my favourite thing.
That whole video and that talk is just amazing, you know. But you know, like going what you're saying, you know, you can get people to pay you to go kayaking. You know, Alan Watts is so on the money. Is like, you know, if you put enough time and effort into something, eventually you go become a master of it. When you become a master of something, then you can earn money or a good fee for being a master of something, sharing with it, you know. And I believe that so much, you know, because all my childhood I was told that you can't be a pro kayaker in England, you can't do this, you can't do that. Although the pro kayakers in America, you couldn't do it in England, and you couldn't really do it in Europe, and there's no money in kayaking, and it just makes me so happy in the last few years to be able to prove that wrong, you know? Like, I'm not in any means balling, like I can't even afford my own car, but I can travel the world, do exactly what I want, and that's ultimately all the money I've ever wanted in my life, you know? Like, my only motivation to earn more money at this point is to be able to help my mum pay rent and to spoil my friends. You know, that's it. Like, I personally don't need any more money.
Yeah.
Mate, I wish we could bottle up your view on life, mate, and just fucking give it to everyone, mate, because I love that Alan Watts video, mate. I play that at least a couple of times a week, and I
don't think I've seen...
Mate, it's amazing,
mate.
yeah.
It's dangerous though. You watch it, you're not going to sleep for 2 or 3 days. You're just busy being motivated.
He's a British philosopher, mate. He's got loads of great little one-liners and great. He's brilliant.
Is this the guy?
Yeah. The video is called "What
if money was no object."
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And he says, like, people come to him and they want to be poets, they want to be writers, but there's never any money in that, and it's.
What if I were to tell you that the purpose of our
stupid adverts. Listen to this, man.
What sort of a situation would you like? Let's suppose I do this often in vocational guidance of students. They come to me and say, well, we're getting out of college and we have the faintest idea what we want to do. So I always ask the question, what would you like to do if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending your life? Well, it's so amazing. As a result of our kind of educational system, crowds of students say, well, we'd like to be painters, we'd like to be poets.
When Bren got asked this, when his teachers asked him that, that's when Bren said, I want to be a kayaker.
Well, I'd like to live an out-of-doors life and ride horses. I said, you want to teach in the riding school? Let's go through with it. What do you want to do? When we finally come down to something which the individual says he really wants to do, I will say to him, you do that. And forget the money. Because if you say that getting the money is the most important thing, you will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid.
What a line that is.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And after all, if you do really like what you're doing, it doesn't matter what it is, you can eventually you can eventually become a master of it. The only way to become a master of something is to be really with it. And then you'll be able to get a good fee for whatever it is. So don't worry too much. Somebody's interested in everything. Anything you can be interested in, you'll find others will. But it's absolutely stupid to spend your time doing things you don't like in order to go on spending things you don't like and doing things you don't like, and to teach your children to follow the same track. See, what we're doing is we're bringing up children, educated, to live the same sort of lives that they're living, in order that they may justify themselves and find satisfaction in life by bringing up their children, to bring up their children to do the same thing. So it's all wretch and no vomit. It never gets there. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
Fucking quality, that.
Good, innit?
Mate, so
I was
sick.
engrossed then.
Especially like, you know, Alan Watts, amazing philosopher, you know, but also just his voice, you know, is so powerful.
But mate, it is so true for everything. I mean, you look at podcasting, you know, no one knew podcasting would blow up. People were just doing it because they thought, you know what, I just want to sit around. I mean, the Anfield Rap, I'm a big Liverpool fan. The lads who started that, and also Red Men TV, just two fan groups who just like going to the pub after the match and talking about it. And then they thought, you know what, wouldn't it be interesting to see if people would be interested in listening to what we've got to say about the football? So they started off, just a few of them, talking about the match. And then before you know it, it's fucking tens of thousands of people following them after their opinions. And now they're making money from it. And you should bang on the money with everything he says in that video.
I feel like if people listen to this on a Monday morning driving to work, might be a little bit hard.
Like,
Well, it can as well, but like, you know, reality is harsh, you know, like there's so many times where like you think you're doing all right in life or something, and then, you know, like you'll refocus on it, or someone will like, you know, bring a point to your attention, you're like, you know, you're right, that like I could be doing this better, or like that's not actually anywhere near as good as I thought it was. And you know, like with me and sponsors or whatever, like I'll have an idea, I'll approach them, and some of the ideas they're chuffed on, you know, and then there's other ideas that I think are great or whatever, or there's like a bunch of potential in it, and they're like, nah, that's for this reason and this reason and this reason, that's not something we want to be involved in. And I'm a bit okay, but you know, it's like how you. And it's like everything. It's like your perspective on life and how you view that, you know, like, do you just give up, or do you like take on board what they've said, and do you learn from it, and do you come back again and with like a new idea, you know, based on what they've said they would be interested in?
And also I think with sponsorships and things like that, it's important not to, because if you need it too much, then you can tend to do things that maybe you wouldn't normally do, that's maybe not right for you, or, you know, with us with Liverpool One or whatever, say, you know, it's important for us not to change what we say, or, you know, if I don't know,
you start dancing to someone else's
exactly,
drums,
mate. Exactly.
Mate, bit of a personal question, and you know, you don't have to answer this, but mate, just a little one-liners that you're dropping, mate. I'm like, I can see so much of myself in you, and you kind of view on life and stuff, and I try and I do think we're similar in a lot of ways. But for me, I mean, I lost my mum when I was young. I was in the Marines. I got blown up. I spent a year of my life in Iraq and Afghanistan, so I've seen the hardships of the world. So I think I'm resilient, and I've got this kind of view on life that's pretty positive. And you know, I kind of, you know, I'll do things I want to do, and I live life in a similar way to you. But I think that's down to the kind of things I've been through. Is there some kind of, where did it come from for you? Were you just kind of born with this attitude to think, fuck life, I want to live life on my terms, or was there a moment in your thoughts? And
no, I mean, there's a lot of drama growing up, you know, between my dad and my mum, and that's honestly, that's one of the reasons I first got into going to the gym and boxing and training, is because, I mean, I'll explain it afterwards, but basically I didn't view my dad as my dad, you know, like this father figure that I would love, you know. It's like, he was the old man in my house that was horrible to mum, you know, and so I wasn't viewing him as my dad. So the reason I went to the gym and went boxing and everything was to beat him up and kick him out of the house, you know. And I don't know where the stubbornness comes from. I think honestly from my granddad, but like if I decide I'm going to do something, then it will get done, you know. If I say it's going to happen, then it will happen, you know. And I went to the gym like religiously a few times a week, boxing class a few times a week, and then I did beat him up, and he did get kicked out of the house. You know?
Did you?
Yeah.
wow.
And so I think that's a lot of it, you know, like all those emotions as a kid growing up. And then high school was a bit rough, you know. I was like the like chubby ginger kid, or like I didn't have many friends, like other kids were mean to me and a bunch of stuff. But it really like shaped who I was, because I think like for whatever reason my nature, there's enough like fire naturally that like when I do get trodden on and like things do upset me, it never like keeps me down, you know. If anything, it just allows me to reach higher, you know, and it's sort of like shaped who I am really, because my whole thing is like, you know, work hard, play hard, treat people right, and don't be a sissy. You know, that's basically how I live. That's how I live my life. But you know, like all this stuff as a kid, like between like, you know, mum and dad and the kids at school and whatever, it just, you know, it just really established like my views in life and my morals. And you know, like, the things that I find most valuable to me now more than anything is friendship, because I didn't really have it as a kid. And that's why I talk about, you know, like the friends you make in high pressure, dangerous situations. It's a different type of friend.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's everything to me. Like, you know, like the money thing is easy because, you know, you're on about, you know, like if you looked at your bank account and you only had £4 or whatever, you know, it sort of gets tricky, you know, because you got to do planning, you got to pay for fuel to get to work, you got food and everything. But I was always so lucky in that, for whatever reason, people could see that I was like this young aspiring kid who was polite and trying to do something, and people would help me out, you know. And so even though I'd only have £4 in my bank account, I had just this network of friends that would help me out in whatever way they could.
And it's funny
just
how
through being a nice guy,
just through being a nice person.
And it's funny how the world works. Like, you always manage to get through, don't you? Do you know what I mean? If you have £4, you always manage to find like the next. Do you know what I mean? It's funny how weird the world works. Like, it's like if you're trying to find somewhere to stay in the night and you can't find somewhere, somehow the world works in such a weird place.
Mate, it's just altruism at work, you know. Like, the only thing that really separates us from other species is that we've got, you know, some areas of our brain are bigger than others, and we're able to cooperate on a level that no other species is. You know, like every great feat in humanity has been accomplished by hundreds of people, you know. There's never really just one person, you know. There's layers to it. Yeah. And
I mean, I do this little bit of my speech when I do the motivational talks, and I always talk about people, you know, unity and pulling in the same direction. And I always say about, you know, whether you're the CEO and you're the top dog, or whether you've just started in the corporation and you're just the new guy, you know, everyone's got such an important role to play in life. And it's, you know, I love the saying, you know, it's about being unselfish. You know, imagine how successful we would all be if no one actually cared who took all the credit. You know, we're on this journey together, and it's like, man, just fucking help each other out, be nice, you know. And I always say, you know, when it comes to teamwork, whether it was the guy who's called James Smith who put a tourniquet on my leg that ultimately stopped me from bleeding out my femoral artery, or whether it was the guy in Birmingham airport when I landed in the UK 18 hours later who was holding up a couple of paddles and, you know, giving it one of those when the plane landed. If not everyone had done their job to the best of their ability, whether it was putting a tourniquet on my leg or waving a couple of paddles when the airplane landed, if they both hadn't done their job to the best of their ability, seconds would have been lost, minutes would have been lost, hours would have been lost. I might not be here now. You know, everyone's got such important role to play, and when all those things can come together, all the cogs in the big, you know, frame of things, that's what success happens. You know, that day for me, success was obviously keeping me alive. People pulling together in your life, it's the success of you doing what you're doing now. And it's that thing of, we're all humans, we're all on this fucking journey together. There's no reason to be a dick. Life's hard enough anyway. Do you know what I mean? Just fucking be nice, like you say, those things you said, you know, just be nice to people. And, you know, and you've proved yourself with, by being nice to people, things have happened for you. I think it's so true, man. I
wanted to say, I think you might resonate with this, Andy, is there's something, we've had James Ketchell, who we were talking about before, who's going around the world in the gyrocopter at the moment. I feel like you and him are really similar. And I feel it's like, I don't know what, I just can't put it's like just a real niceness. Like, I remember like before when we first arrived, like, obviously your first question to us was like, oh guys, how's your week been? I hope you've had it, you know, like there's, you know, it was the same with James. Like he said the exact same thing. I don't know what it is about people who, I just think like people like you, just like really nice people. Do you know what I mean? But you know, I'm not just saying that because you're here, but like,
you know what's so reassuring though, mate, as well, is we live in a world where, you know, you got Trump on and he's just being a dick all the time, and there's loads of bad stuff in the world, and sometimes it can be a bit like, it puts you off watching the news sometimes, doesn't it? Because there's so much bad going on, and then you do meet people and you think, oh, it's just, there are good people in the world still.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I mean, there's levels to everything. You know, there's no bad without good. You know, no good without bad. You know, all of that stuff. But yeah, mate, I honestly, I think just like you know, like people that have like found the thing that like makes them excited to get up in the morning, they've found the thing that they want to commit their life to. It's just a different energy, you know, like
totally.
I think so, at least from my experience. So
100%. I feel like James, like, I feel like if you ever met him, you get on with him like a house on fire. Just like, it's a good point, really good point that once you've found something that suddenly, like, don't know whether a weight is lifted off you or like you just know, like you've just got laser focus on that one thing and like everything else is bullshit.
Yeah, mate. I mean, you know, something has given you like an identity, you know, almost, and like a confidence that comes with that identity, you know. So like, you know what, I might only have £4 in my bank account, I might be broke, I might have this or whatever, but get me in a kayak and I'm pretty fucking sick, you know, like, you know, it's like, I think it's just the confidence that comes with that, you know, it's like, you know, like, I don't know, it's just inside of you almost. That's
it. Mate, I just wanted to, sorry, what was that book about you, mate? I meant to ask you before how medicine is broken and how can we fix it. What is it about again?
So that's just.
So I know we're jumping about it, but I really wanted to find out if you've read it. What?
So that's all about the medical industry and how drugs come to market. And one of the biggest things that I found out from it is that like you would think that if someone had a drug trial, that they would present all the data from a drug trial, good or bad, so that people can learn from it. However, most pharmaceutical companies are not bound by law to do that. So if they have a bad drug trial, they just bury it. No one learns from that data.
Wow, really?
Yeah. You know, which is...
So these trials could actually get done a couple of times because no one actually knows it's getting done?
Yep, for sure, mate. And so that's what I was saying earlier, you know, is like you imagine a drug company as being bad, everyone can jump to that conclusion pretty easily, but not necessarily bad in the way that they actually are bad, you know? And so...
It's that selfish thing again, isn't it? Like,
mate, I'm just ruled by money, really. But yeah, I mean, Benjamin Goldacre, one of my favorite writers for like his perspective on things, you know, like him, Yuval Harari, you know, all those guys, you know, they just have such a like original, like to the point way of looking at things that like, you know, like really just tilts your head back when you're reading it. You're like, whoa, you know, I never had that viewpoint before.
The US, you've probably seen it if you've been around the US for a lot, but like when I was in Mexico 2-3 weeks ago, I could get some US channels, and some of the pharmaceutical companies in the US are just like, some of the adverts that they run, it's just insane, you know, like some of the how they're allowed to run adverts on certain drugs.
Like, mate, it's hilarious, isn't it? It's like buy Prosequantal by Benjamin Goldacre, proven to cure this and this, and then it's like disclaimer: may cause eye blindness, may cause mouth cancer, may cause ear cancer, may cause your dick to fall off. You know, just like. Yeah, I'm pretty thankful in England that stuff is not allowed by and large. You know,
yeah, we don't allow like that sort of like.
Yeah, mate, our laws on advertising pretty on point for the most part.
Oh, fucking hell.
Mate, going look into the future, mate, what's the... I know you're going to Nepal for the next few weeks, but I mean, what's the kind of... Do you have any big, more kind of crazy-ass goals, or...?
Mate, always.
Yeah.
But it's honestly, that accident, my head injury, like, really gave me like, a point to, like, stop and reconsider what I've been, like, pushing myself so hard for the last 10 years, you know? Because... It just, like I said before, it just reset the rules to the game, you know? Like, I thought that as long as I landed perfectly, that I would be okay off anything. And in reality, we're riding the most destructive force in nature, you know? So occasionally, you're going to take a bad impact just randomly. And that bad impact might, you know, leave you not knowing who you are for a few weeks. And I'm still sort of trying to figure out whether I'm okay with that and how I can, like, mitigate those risks in the future. So... Big waterfalls this year. I mean, the biggest one I've stepped up to this year is like 95 foot, which I'm pretty happy with. Just
that's like 25 foot off your record.
Yeah. But this
I thought you were gonna say like it's like not really taking it easy, but is it?
Yeah, but this one was like perfect. As 95 foot waterfalls go, this is like pristine. You know, it's absolutely beautiful, pretty easy line. But that was more like what we were on about, is like getting back on the horse, you know. Yeah. And it was a really scary week because. You know, a lot of things have to come together for you to get these waterfalls. You know, you need a good crew, the weather has to be right. You know, the stuff we're trying to do now, we've got to get the drones up in the air, the cameras rolling, all that stuff, and everything came together for this week, and it was savage. I mean, within a week, we had like 600 foot of free fall under us. It was savage, and it was the first time I've ever been scared or like really been like really aware of the consequences of hitting my head again, because it had only been like 5 months after my accident, so taking a big impact would have been really, really bad. And well, we did it, mate, and it was a sick week. And after that, you know, I've been open to big waterfalls, but I haven't really been like pursuing them as much. And this year is honestly a bit like take some time out from big waterfalls a little bit and do some other types of kayaking and really figure out what I want to do, because there's so many sides to this sport. It's amazing, you know, like you've got the big waterfall side of things, you've got freestyle, you've got expeditions, you've got like free ride and all of that stuff. And when I look at how I grew up in kayaking, like doing so much freestyle as a kid, like tricks in kayaks and whatnot, and then the waterfall thing, I really want to combine those two skills and make sort of like my own piece to the sport, you know? Like I don't really want to follow in the footsteps of other people anymore, which is what we have been doing, you know? Like taking it to a higher level, but really just following what people have been doing, but just doing it a bit better and going a bit higher. Now I want to like create my own way to get down the river. So that's what we're heading into. And then really this expedition to Tibet is just, you know, like sometimes things will just line up in the universe where, you know, if you don't take that opportunity, then that's, you know, that's a really sad thing to miss in your life. And this lined up, it all came together, and we'll go and see what it's like. But it's definitely something that I've never done before, you know. So
we'll just see. When you talk, the second you mention an adventure or kayak, your face just lights up, man. It's so happy.
Are you checking the weather? Are you checking the weather now, like to make sure there's rain and like?
Mate, so I'm just on the next trip. I'm just piggybacking along. You know, I'm gonna help with some filming, and I'm just gonna try and be an easy member of the crew. So like, all that side of pressure and logistics is off on me, you know. That's my mate Tilo's job and Olaf's job. But yeah, I mean, normally, basically I wake up in the morning, I check the weather for like different spots in the world, and then that helps me like formulate my plan throughout the day and the coming weeks, you know. And honestly, mate, if kayaking goes tits up, I think I could work for the Weather Channel, you know, because I spend so much time watching radar coming in and trying to guess where it's gonna hit.
Doppler radar.
Mate, totally.
Well, you should. Do you ever go into schools and stuff like that and speak to young people?
Dude, it's hard. No, I've never done that. I've done like a few talks or whatnot now, but I've tried reaching out, because I would love to share, you know, some ideas with the kiddos, because I don't know, it's funny, mate. I recently got fined like a bunch of money for kayaking down a spillway in Wales, and I was like, appreciate I've done wrong, broken the bylaw or whatever, but instead of fining me, why can't I do some sort of community service, you know? And I'll take some kids from like a local school out kayaking, or I'll come do a talk or whatever. They weren't interested. They just wanted my money.
Yeah, fucking
really, yeah. I fucking hate shit like that, you know. That's what a great idea to say.
Yeah,
look, you know.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, and as well, like, you know, the money is, you know, a little bit sad to lose, bit of a pain in the arse, but it's not going to stop me doing anything, you know. Like, it's just more motivation to earn more money and recoup it. But, you know, like, I really think that, like, you know, your time, especially kids, and how impressionable they are, you know, like if I hadn't have tried kayaking randomly as a kid, I'd be a different person right now, you know. So like just having your pathways and your avenues open to like new ideas is huge. So
I know for me, mate, if I had someone like you come in and talk to me about like the Alan Watts kind of sketch, talk about, look, you know, I love kayaking, I dedicated all my time to it, and for the last 10 years I've travelled around the world doing it because I love it, it'd make me want to think, you know, wow, I can do something like this 100%, because I never had anything like that. No one speak to me in that way. I don't know, maybe it was the school I went to. Like, no one spoke to me.
Yeah, no, it would be quality that if you could go into schools, yeah.
Yeah, mate. I mean, something I would like to do in the future, you know. And my biggest thing,
imagine like showing, like, you know, even like the like us here now watching the YouTube clips, like even bringing up clips and like like the kids would be fucking like astounded. Like I am astounded, but even more so when you're 8 years
and you're only
old.
25 as well, man. Like you got so many more adventures to go on.
Yeah, mate.
Man, I fucking want to be you, man. I never get jealous of people, like in the sense of like, I never think, oh, I wish, but man, I'm like, oh, fuck, I want to be you for the day.
Mate. I mean, yeah, mate. I mean, your story's so legit as well. Like, holy shit,
Oh,
mate.
mate,
I wouldn't
think you
want
could just get-
it, but
Nah, I'm-
bleed
I'm
the
like-
neck is, mate. You know, like seeing you sat here and how you talk and everything. It's just,
Yeah, I'm like the luckiest guy in the world, man. I feel very, mate. But again, the way you're talking, I feel like a lot of what you say. Like I think we connect quite a lot, and that's why I asked before about your kind of childhood, because I do feel when you've gone through kind of adversity and challenges at a young age, I do think it makes you stronger to be more like driven and resilient and determined to go and do, and stubborn, I guess, as well, to be like, nah, fuck this, man.
Mate, I agree 100%, no doubt. And I think it also like makes you question authority a little bit, you know, like how,
Yeah.
why do things have to be this way, and like why are you allowed to say this and I'm not, you know? And
Yeah.
honestly, mate, my biggest thing in the last few years, I really thought that I would get to an age, you know, like 21, 23, 25, where I'd be like, oh, this is what it means to be an adult, you know? Like now I'm an adult and things have to change. Nothing has changed. I'm still the same as I was when I was 14.
I make exactly me question those things. I've been lucky enough. I've been around the world now doing motivational talks, and some companies you go in, you know, as a kid you look up to businesses and you think these are all the know-it-alls. These are ones that are making the world turn. And you go in, and you're like, these don't fucking know what to do either.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Mate, 100%. Same thing here, you know? And like oftentimes people that have taken that route are more immature than, you know, people, I mean, not trying to be big-headed here, but like people like ourselves that have like had problems happen and like had to solve them and, you know, had to like, you know, control your emotions or whatever. Some people get so angry in businesses, you know, like I like firmly believe, you know, like if you can't control your emotions, that's a weakness, you know, and you have to control them in like a high pressure situation, you know, like kayaking down, you know, like long rapids, you let your emotions get to you, start getting scared, you start breathing heavy. That's not a good position to be in. And you know, the same for so much, whether you're boxing or you're running, you know, your breathing and your emotions are huge.
Yeah.
And trying to control your energies.
That's fascinating, mate. No, 100%.
Mate, I do think that's definitely a thing though, is like being able to, like, from a young age, like going through difficulties or whatever, being able to like channel your energies a little bit, you know, like that's definitely something I do on whitewater that scares me, you know, like I can like pick my point up to like a point in my childhood where I thought like I was just so mad I felt like I could knock out Mike Tyson, you know, like and then like calm myself down, but you know I've still got like the residual effects of it, of like being that angry and like just hitting that like that fuck it point. And you know, and then being calm throughout it, and I think that's like a skill to have that is worth developing.
Mate, when I lost my mum when I was 12, I just remember every other challenge or problem I'd think, fuck this, then this is going to be easy. Like, it's nowhere near as hard as what I've been through. So it gave me this kind of this confidence to be like, whatever life is going to throw at me now, like I've dealt with far worse. So, you know, let's have it. Come on.
Yeah, bring it on. Yeah.
100%.
Mate, I was talking when you mentioned about that Wales when you got a fine. I saw a video a while ago. I think it was on Facebook. It must have been in the States. It was like a sewer. Like,
the ditch.
Yeah.
So that's in Canada. It's called Lions Bay.
Lions Bay.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
Sorry, Lions. Like,
sorry,
know, like
Lions.
Rory the Lion.
Bay. Kayak.
Yeah, pop up there.
So for those who, obviously, those who are watching this can see what we're watching, but those who are listening, is this all? What's the YouTube channel for you? The best to find all your stuff? Senders. And obviously on Instagram as well. Some of these videos are fucking unreal. Like, you just need to watch them.
Cheers, mate.
I tell you what, GoPro do some good stuff, don't they?
Oh yeah.
Right. So if I wind this forward,
skip ahead.
Will this be the video? Yeah.
Yeah, mate. Funny thing is, these are like two of my kayaking heroes as a kid. You know, like they still are. Rush Sturges and Benny Marr.
Have you met them?
Yeah, mate. I kayak with them, hang out. I did some filming for Rush the other week. They're super cool guys.
What the fuck? So what are they? A drainage ditch?
Yeah, so this is like a really famous one. Kayakers have been going down this for years. But, you know, like in this day with like viral videos and stuff, you know, the funny thing is, mate, is like, so this video came out in the same year that Benny Marr, the Canadian, ran Site Z on the Stikine River, and that has long been like the gnarliest rapid of all time until he ran it. And so he descended that, got a few hundred clicks. No one really cared outside of kayaking. And then on his way to the airport, he runs this drainage ditch, throws that online, and it goes viral. You know, like, what are the views on now? Like 3 million.
Yeah.
And like, this is way tamer. Like, this is, you know, this is some like this is some like Gulliver's World, like stuff. You know, like you're not.
Do they just drop down now?
Yeah, mate.
Mate, do you find as well now is there a little bit of like, what are we doing this for? Are we doing this for the views? Are we doing this for the clicks? Or is there still that love you've got there for it?
Mate, I mean, I only do things really in a kayak because I want to.
Yeah.
You know, like there's like two sides of it. You know, because like I am still just kayaking for myself, but I'm just taking time to like film and record the adventures. You know, but like there's definitely days where I'm like, I just don't want to have to get out my kayak and set up the camera. I just want to be able to like just bomb and just go. And we still do that, but you know, like mate, I mean, maybe we should get savvier and smarter about that and try and think about what would go viral or what would earn money. But yeah, at the moment we just go kayaking, we do what we do, but we film it. And
it's straight into is that just the sea?
Yeah, I think so.
That looks a lot of fun, I'll be honest. It looks,
mate.
looks a lot of fun. You know what I want to do, Tom? We should take the leg up. It wouldn't be a podcast, it'd just be a recording, talking about things like that, being a bit savvy. I can still play football still. I want to get like, you know, the bins and just take a bin to like various locations around the city and then like, you know, just kick a football into it.
Yeah, you should do that.
Make like a cool video.
Nice, mate.
We'll get something sorted. Yeah.
Mate. And you know, if you guys ever want to go kayaking, just hit me up. We'll do it for sure.
Mate, I've done a bit of kayaking in Bavaria.
Nice.
It was cool. We've done an adventure training package out there, but I've done it a couple of times and it's a lot of fun in it, man. Yeah. It's so much fun.
Oh yeah, I did my is it 2-star?
Mate,
when I was
practically pro there. I only have my 1-star.
Did you only have? Yeah, did 2-star. Yeah, on the kayak. It's like a certificate.
So is that you saying that you're better at them than kayak?
Mate, on paper, 100%, literally double as good.
Yeah, I remember doing. What's the the only thing I can remember doing is the roll underneath the water and then tap in.
Yeah, and then trying to get people to come and tip
and then the boat comes up. The boat.
Yeah.
The kayak. A friend comes up to like on the side, and then you've got to.
Yeah, so that's called like a T-rescue, which like me and my friends don't teach because it's like you've got to coordinate yourself underwater to make sure that your mate is going to like be on the side that you're expecting, and you've got to grab his kayak and like tip yourself up. It's just not practical in like serious whitewater. So we practice what we call the hand of God, and you just grab someone's kayak and you just rip them back up so they're upright, and that works whether someone's unconscious or conscious, you know. But you know that time you spend underwater not being able to breathe, like rubbing your hands along your kayak, like where is his kayak? Okay, that's my kayak. I don't feel his kayak. Maybe he's on the other side, you know. Like it's just you don't want to deal with that, you know. You just boom, you want to be able to breathe again.
I mean, that's the great thing. All these adventures you're going on, when maybe the time does come and you think, you know what, I've had enough near misses and I've done the adventures I want to do. I mean, you've got so much knowledge to pass on to, you know, people coming through.
Yeah, mate. I do this. Well, I used to do it. There's like a summer camp in the States called Keena's, or it's in Canada actually, but it's called the Keena Camp, and they just throw these kids in at the deep end. You know, these kids come on week 1 and they're like scared of the rapids they're running, and they're like all intimidated. By week 2, they're getting a bit more confident, and some of them are like doing really well. By week 3, they're absolute savages because they're just thrown in at the deep end, right? And they're scared and they're trying all these like advanced skills, but then they've got their mates pushing them throughout it. So like not only do they have like a bunch of people teach them like good techniques, they also have their mates like getting better alongside them and giving them gym. It's an insane environment for progression. Like those kids get so good inside 3 weeks.
I think with kids as well, mate. Like I've got a little girl who's 4, and I actually put a post on Instagram about it the other day, and through growing up she's obviously seen me with one leg, but you know, I go to the gym, I go running and walking the dog. I'm a very active dad, and she used to moan and say, "Oh, Dad, I'm tired. My legs are hurting me." And I'd say, "I've only got one leg, and my leg's okay, so you're okay." And she hasn't got this excuse anymore. So it's kind of pushed her on to be like, you know what, I can do this more, I can do that more. And I think at such a young, impressionable age, when you're pushing them in that way, in a positive way, to keep going and actually, you know what, you can do that. And she'll do things in the park, and she'll say, "Oh, Dad, hold my hand. It's too high." And I'll say, "No, you can do it. Come on." And then she does it, and she's like, do you know what I mean? And I love that thing with young people, and you can push them, and it just broadens the horizons that little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what's the highest? So I did 2-star. And you're a 1 star.
Tom, you are not as good as him, mate.
Wait.
Drop this now.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's important to get that in there, mate. It's a starting point.
No, what's the highest star you can go up to then?
Apparently 5.
5 star.
But I'm honestly, mate, I'm just not involved with that.
Oh yeah,
whole,
it's
Mate, you don't need to be, man. Just
No.
go YouTube. I'd just be like, fuck the stars, YouTube.
Yeah, mate, that's how I feel. But I don't know. I think they're trying to like change their image and like how they run themselves. But like kayaking's such an old sport now that it was, the British canoeing, which is like the governing body in the UK, they were just so far behind. They were so regimented in like these old school ways, and they didn't. I mean, like I kayak a lot. I've never worked with them at all. I've never done anything with them. Mate, I actually approached them once. I was like, like I'm from England. I kayak. You guys are England's kayaking governing body. Maybe let's sit down and talk. Maybe we do something cool together. And nothing came of it. Like they're just dinosaurs.
Fucking yeah. It doesn't surprise me, that though.
Yeah, and you've got all that like reach, like from like obviously you've all got the knowledge as well, but like you've got all the reach as well from like
So well
social.
respected around the world, and
Yeah.
Mate, I mean, whatever. It doesn't bother me. I'm not. Well, actually, mate, now you've brought it up that you're a 2-star, I do have more motivation to be involved with them. I'll be involved with them until I get my 3-star, and then we're done.
Yeah. And you have you paid that fine then from the Welsh?
No, mate. They're based on like how much money I earn. They're gonna let me pay it off over 18 months.
Should we give a shout? What's the name of the council? The cunts. We'll fucking name them out.
Mate, I couldn't pronounce it if I wanted to, which is unfortunate.
fair enough.
But it's like Clandidworth. But the company that fined me was Welsh Water, DWRCYM.
Shout out to Welsh Water, you cunts.
Mate, it's
fair enough. So I didn't want to make the situation any
you're all
worse.
good, mate. What gets?
mate, it's I think this is one of my favourites, man. This has been.
I've enjoyed it, yeah.
Cheers,
I've
dude.
really
It's good
enjoyed
talking
it.
to you.
Mate, it's cool speaking to someone with an amazing like job, lifestyle, but then again, mate, your mindset, I think that's the most powerful thing, and that's what one thing me and Tom wanted to get from the podcast is meet interesting people, but that mindset, I think, and that's the thing that's infectious with people, is when you speak to someone and you're in someone's company and you can walk away and you go, mate, what a great way to look at life. Like it makes us, me and Tom, and when we go away and do other podcasts, you think, that's one of the reasons we want to do it, to learn off other people. We're all, like I say, on this journey together, and you pick up things from different people, and I think, mate, you've just got a fantastic attitude towards life, mate, and it'd be awesome, especially if younger people could pick up on that.
Yeah, definitely.
On that attitude, to not live in what people think's the norm, and like, oh, we've got to do this because the teacher says it, or because my mum and dad does it. It's like, fuck, man, if you want to go and fucking pick shells up on the beach and paint them and then sell them on eBay, fucking, and you think that'll work, man, go and do it, man.
Mate, that's the most important thing, though, is like just doing something. Because I have had mates that just left school and didn't do anything, like they didn't push themselves to learn anything new or try new things. They just kept doing the same thing, which was nothing, So I definitely, just especially when you're young, just trying as much as you can, because you don't know what you're gonna like until you stumble upon it. Like, nobody would have guessed that I would have liked kayaking this much when I was a kid, but I did.
Yeah.
I used to have a teacher, and she went, I once said to her, I'm no good at poetry, and she went, how many poems have you written? And I said, none. She went, well, that's why you're not good at it then. You never wrote one, how do you know you're not? And I was like, so true, isn't it? How do you know you're shit at something if you fucking know you're good at it?
Oh.
You got anything else, Tom? Or?
No, I haven't, no.
Mate, thank you so much.
Mate, thank you guys.
Mate,
appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's been mega.
I feel like ever since, like, it's similar to the James Ketchell one, we come away from this, and like, you might have an idea, like, after we went down to see James Ketchell, you wanted to row the Atlantic, didn't you? And like, you just get more motivated. And
this one, mate, just makes me want to just enjoy life. Like, it's fucking,
yeah.
Like, life is so short, man. You need to just enjoy what you do and just be nice to people, make people happy, and just live a happy life, man. I've come away with a good feeling. So nice.
Mate, thank you so much
and,
as well.
Yeah, mate, and let's make it happen. Let's go kayaking.
I
can get some lessons from you.
Mate, we should really say just before we go as well, what's you mentioned obviously YouTube channel Send It, but is there anywhere that any people can find you, like Instagram?
Instagram, it's just my name, Bren.Orton. YouTube, our channel's called Senders. We have like another channel called Send It, but that's for like, you know, like the films that we're taking more time with. So basically Senders is like a vlogging channel that's behind the scenes, and then Send It is like the highly polished, like, you know, hundreds of hours on a 3-minute video. Sort of deal. So it depends what you want, but yeah, if you Google Send Kayaking, chances are you'll stumble across what we do.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Thank you, mate.
No worries.
Thank you so much.
man.
Mate, it was fucking brilliant, that, mate. Genuinely, mate. It's fucking infectious.